Hi, welcome to Game Changer Chat today. I'm your host, Zakiya Mabry, and today we have some great information. So please get your notepad ready, your phone, your electronic devices, so you can take copious notes. Today we are joined with us two special guests. We have Pat Perry and Radiance Harris, Esquire, and we're going to be talking about your brand, PR, and intellectual property and trademarks. We're going to probably also have Nyanza Moore joining us. She's running a bit late because of some work obligations. So she pops in, just pardon us while we get her added to the panel. So I would just first like to say good evening and welcome to our panelists. Pam, good evening.
Hi, thank you, Zakiya. Thanks for having me.
Pam is you're welcome. Pam is a guru in PR, branding. She's been doing this for well over 2 decades. When I first met Pam, it was last year at the Cheryl Woods Dynamic SpeakerCon 2019, and I saw her and I heard her speeches that she gave. She was being awarded recognition for all her hard work that she's been doing in the industry. And one of the things I truly believe in is network. Your network, you have to build your network. So when I got home, I immediately added her to my LinkedIn profile and been following her ever since and trying to stay in contact with her. So I reached out to her about this opportunity. And Radiance, we connected on LinkedIn. I followed some of her posts that she had. I liked it because I saw something that she connected with somebody else. And I said, I have to have this person in my network. And so when I thought about this idea, I reached out to her and she said, absolutely, I would do it. So without any further ado, I would like to ask Pam to tell us a little more in detail about who you are, why you started in your line of work, and please tell us why you're an expert at branding.
Oh, thank you so much, Zakiya. And don't you just love LinkedIn? I love LinkedIn.
Yes.
I mean, Facebook and YouTube, that's cool too. I know those folks are streaming over there, but I love LinkedIn because you can really see someone's actually process or steps. So if you look on my LinkedIn, I started couple of decades, 3 decades ago. But my background was basically in journalism and public relations. And when I got out of school, I worked for the Detroit Free Press for many years. And then from there, I moved into radio and I worked in that for many years. It seems like every time I worked at a place, it was about 7 years. So 7 years in print, 7 years in roughly radio, and then another 7 years roughly in nonprofit. And that's where I really found the most joy. And I was a director of public relations for the Salvation Army. But after that, I kind of left after I got married and had a daughter, and I wanted to really do something different. And I started Ministry Marketing Solutions actually 20 years ago this year. And from there, I really wanted to just focus on targeting African American preachers, churches, ministers, Christian writers, and I've been doing that ever since.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And seven's a dynamic number. That's my favorite number.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for sharing with us about your background. And Esquire Radiance, please tell us about you.
Sure. So I started my career roughly a little over 10 years ago. I was at a major global law firm in Washington, D.C. And so I was there in the trademark, copyright, and media group. My clients at that time were Fortune 200 to 500 companies. And so I was responsible for helping them protect, enforce, and monetize their brands. And so after doing that for roughly 5 years, I decided to jump ship and start my own law practice. I knew that I wanted to help small and emerging businesses, so like the future big corporations. I wanted to help them in their beginning stages. And then I knew that I also wanted to do flat rates coming from hourly billing where I was at Big Law, where it was high hourly billing. So I launched Radiance IP Law roughly about 5 years ago. And so now I specialize in helping emerging businesses protect, monetize, and leverage profitable brands with trademarks.
Wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much. And I guess I'll jump in there and tell about a little bit about me. I was working for the federal government for many years, and then I went to Fortune 500 companies, and I started having some health issues. So I wanted a more healthy work-life balance. And so I started my own firm where I focus on D&I, specifically disability inclusion. And so I also like to let other people have their platform to express what it is that they do, because I believe in making an impact in the world. So, welcome to everyone, and let's get started in talking about protecting your brand and your intellectual property. So, the first question I'll have is for Pam Perry. Can you please tell people what is the difference between PR and marketing? A lot of times people get that confused and don't understand the difference. So, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, the marketing is an overall, I guess, arching, and then under marketing is PR, and under that is advertising. But essentially, the difference between the two, marketing will lead you to a trail where buy now, click this button. PR will lead you to find out more, get to know them. It's more positioning. So one is buying directly, impacting sales, and PR is really that softer part of really getting to know someone, creating a
Okay.
desire to want to buy, but it
Okay.
doesn't sell. Marketing sells. PR is more like positioning and really promoting the brand.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clearing that up for us. And Radiance, please tell us what qualifies as intellectual property. We hear that term, but exactly what is that?
So, intellectual property is essentially creations of the mind. And so, when you hear the term, it is an umbrella term that encompasses four different types of intellectual property. And that includes trademarks, which protect your brand, copyright, which protects your content, trade secrets, which protects anything that is a secret or proprietary in your business. And then there's patents, which protect inventions.
Okay, thank you. We're going to be delving a lot deeper into that. Um, there's okay. We since we've been social distancing and we've been home since pretty much March. A lot of people become very creative about how to continue to build their business, and a lot of people have started their own businesses.
Yes.
We've seen a lot of master classes and virtual this and a lot of Zoom classes. So I've noticed there's been a rise in master classes, but what makes you be able to be a master to teach a master class?
He
So,
just wants to, he just wants to say hi. He really, really loves the voice. He loves your voice, Zakiya. So this is Peppy. He loves your voice. And he's like, who is that? I want to see her.
I love puppies.
So he's like, I love that voice. So
Okay. Well, I love puppies. Pam, have you noticed the increase in master classes? And can you tell us exactly what is it and what makes someone qualified to teach a master class?
I have a little bit of a edge about a master class. Okay.
Okay.
It's overused. And really,
Okay.
you should have mastered something. And they usually say you're a master at something or an expert at something after like 10,000 hours. Sometimes if you do the math on some of these people who say they're doing these master classes, they haven't even been on earth 10,000 hours. Okay. So, but how are you teaching a master class? So yeah, it's a buzzword. It's a marketing word. It's a cool word, but basically it's a webinar. Okay, it's just a webinar or it's a slideshow that you're sharing. It's not a master class, because really the point of it, one, you should be a master, really the one that's teaching it, and two, when you're doing the master class, at the very end of it, you should feel like you've mastered something as well. But what happens when people do this master class, it's like it's a big sales pitch for about an hour. But if you really want to master this, then you need to buy my program for $2,000. I ain't being fooled by that no more. So when I see it now, I'm like, nope. So, there are a few master classes that are good. Typically, they are from people who are masters. But for the
Mhm.
most, like Shonda Rhimes, she did a master class. Okay, so
Mhm.
obviously you would learn from Shonda Rhimes, but
Mhm.
everybody else is I'd have to just really do the test on that, and, you know.
Okay, thank you. I can appreciate that. Radiance, do you have any comments on the master classes?
No, I would have to agree with Pam. A lot of times there are a lot of buzzwords, masterclass, workshop, webinars, but typically, yeah, it's an opportunity to pitch your products or services to a target audience. So I usually minimize those.
Okay, all
Yes,
right.
yes.
Thank you. Radiance, what are your rights, like individual rights, as a content creator?
Mm.
Well, so as a content creator, fortunately for you, whenever you create the content, you automatically own the content. So that means under US copyright law, copyright ownership sticks when you actually create the content that you are presenting out there to the world. So that's cool. In addition to that, if you want to take it a step further and make sure that you have that extra insurance and in your protection, then you want to secure a US copyright registration from the US Copyright Office. And what that does is gives you an automatic presumption of ownership. If you ever had to enforce your rights against someone, whether it was sending a cease and desist letter, doing a DMCA notice, or having to do a takedown on social media, usually that U.S. copyright registration certificate is a prerequisite to any kind of enforcement. But unfortunately, just by creating the content, you own the content unless there is something in writing to the contrary.
Wow, thank you. That's quite helpful. Um, Pam, I know that you've been doing this for a long time. You own a magazine. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to ask somebody to take down content?
For Speakers Magazine, haven't had any here. Put in a little Speakers Magazine. Haven't had anyone that has to take anything down. But with our cover photos, I will always ask people, do we have permission to use those photos? So what will
Mm-hmm.
happen? Sometimes we'll put a photo in the magazine, and the photographer, if didn't give them rights, then they can come to us and say, why are you using this photo? So
Exactly.
photos are very, very tricky, just because, and that's with anything in social media. If you see a photo on Google, you just can't take it and just download it and just start using it.
Mm.
Okay. And
Right.
so with the magazine, especially if you have a cover, it's like, do you have the rights to this photo? And they say yes,
Okay.
so that's really like the main thing.
That's very good to know. I just want to reiterate to the viewers, pictures are very touchy and
Yeah.
you need to get permission to use the photos. Just wanted to reiterate that because now everyone's definitely making sure we have our headshots because we know that makes us look more professional. So make sure that you have, I'm just repeating what I understood, permission to use the headshots of the photographer that took our pictures.
Hmm.
Right.
And that can also be even extended to anything. Make sure you have
Mhm.
permission. So, for example, if you hire someone to design your logo or design your website, you want to make sure that, as I mentioned, whoever creates the content owns the content. So they technically own that content unless you have an IP transfer or a
That's true.
work-based hire agreement. So it's also something
Mm.
to keep in mind in terms of ownership that people automatically assume because they've paid someone for a service, where that involves content creation. So if someone's managing your social media account or anything like that, that means that they automatically own the IP, and that's not true.
Mm.
Writing to the contrary, stating that and transferring the ownership to you for that content that's been created. So that's just something to think about. It goes beyond photos in terms of making sure you have that permission.
And Zakiya,
Okay.
too, just really radiance what you said about that. I was talking with a client of mine, Darcel Walker, and he said that a client of his had a ghostwriter write a book. And you know what happened is that ghostwriter then decided that they were the owner and not the
Uh,
person that
Oh.
they ghostwriter, because they didn't get it in writing that
Mm.
they,
ownership would transfer upon
yeah,
or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
big case, just had to fight the tooth and nail
Mm.
because
Yeah.
the ghostwriter felt like they created it and they owned it, but it was
Mm.
It,
actually, yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
Don't get
having
messy
fun.
with books and songs. I think books and music are the really those areas
Mm-hmm.
can get really messy,
They can.
Oh.
Hmm.
especially
Well,
music.
I'm glad that we're having this conversation because once I posted this flyer, people have been pinging me on my inbox about even websites. Someone had this happen to them about website, and the person was putting up content about classes that they were going to have, and then they didn't agree with, like, as the dynamics of class, the website, so they severed ties. But the person who was putting together the website, they now had all the information and they start creating the content of the classes that the person.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I just, you guys, really hats off
Contracts are
to you
important.
doing this. Yes, it is. It is.
Get it in
Um,
writing.
Yeah.
yes,
Make
yes.
sure all ownership is transferred to you at
Yes.
all times, so you don't run into that issue.
I'm not an
Oh.
attorney or anything. I at one point I did want to be an attorney when I was in high school, but one of the things I always say is that it's not real if it's not written. So you have to have
Mhm.
it written.
Yeah.
And it's so important today, especially with social media, has really made everything so much more sensitive and easy for
Mhm.
people to steal, basically steal your ideas, your artwork, I mean, just steal.
Mhm.
Someone could actually go uh, and copy your entire profile, like on
Mhm.
Instagram or Facebook. I mean, people are just stealing a lot of stuff. So be really careful, really
Yeah.
careful. Security is really important in all of your things, the artistic things that you create.
Thank you. Um, um, can you share some examples of brand elements that people actually use now that you to add to that, Pam? Can you share what are some of those things?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, think about a basic brand element. Nike, right? So Nike
Mm-hmm.
has "Just Do It" as a slogan. They
Mm-hmm.
trademarked that. So you
Mm-hmm.
just can't start using that, Zakiya. It's like, just do it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
really? Or I've
Mm-hmm.
seen I've seen people who aren't necessarily they may say America's number one wealth coach or something like that. And they
Mm-hmm.
and it may not necessarily that they are America's number one wealth coach, but they
Mm-hmm.
trademarked that phrase. So they can
Mm-hmm.
say it now, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because they've trademarked it. So that's certain things like that I have seen in terms of PR where people were using things like that. Or if it's a logo that's very familiar, say, I'm trying to think of something that's very, very familiar that, say, the Ford Oval, okay, the
Mm-hmm.
Ford logo. And instead of using the same blue, the same letters, they would use another word, like, say, faith. All right,
Mm-hmm.
just put faith in that blue oval, and then they're using that. It's like, I'm a faith, whatever. But it's really they're infringing, I think, because when you first look at it, it looks just like Ford
Mm-hmm.
or the same D that we use for Detroit Tigers. You can't use that same D. It's their D. It's so people kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one. Oh my God! I saw one for The Godfather. I don't know if you all remember The Godfather.
Yes.
So The Godfather had this little logo where it looks like a puppet or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw someone use that same. It was the same artwork but with different words.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that I don't know about that. I'm not a lawyer,
Right.
but I was like,
Right.
that's real close. I know people are
Right.
trying to get something that's familiar so that you can
Right.
so that people, but you can't like take Oprah's O and then make it your O.
Right. Right.
Like, you gotta it's certain point in time when things are trademarked, people can come after you for that.
And come after you for a lot of money, take everything you know. Let's go to look at the questions. And everyone, can you please like in the comments right now and put where in the world are you tuning in from? Are you in Detroit? Are you in the DMV? Or where are you tuning in from? Because we saw over 800 people said they're going to tune in today. So where are you watching from? Please just let us know. And we're going to go right now to hey Quinn. Um, she's saying yes, Pam Perry. D
Hey
is saying
Quinn.
hello. Hey
There's only one
Tanisha.
Quinn, right?
Right? There's only one Quinn. Um, uh, Tracy, you're saying hello. We have a lot of people on, so everyone just say hello and shout out where you are, Pam.
Hi.
and let us know.
Detroit, the DMV. It's a lot of people in the DMV that we must be cousins or something. Because it just seems like a lot of my good friends are from that area. You know,
Yes,
really
yes,
Detroit in the DMV area and Chicago too. So,
yes. Okay, Radiance. Um, oh, Felicia says she's coming in from Dallas, Texas.
all
Hey.
right, great.
Nice.
Yeah, different time
Um,
zones coming in.
yes, definitely. In your years of experience, can you share some examples that has come across your desk in regards to property theft? And hey,
Yeah,
Kim from
sure.
DMV.
There are a lot of examples, but I guess if I had to narrow it down, a lot of times I see that business owners, content creators come to me maybe a couple of years or so after launching their brands. And now they realize that, man, I'm making money, like my name's really out there. And now they want to protect it years after they've started using it. So meanwhile, they've been using it for all these years, but they have no legal ownership in that brand that they're building because they haven't secured a U.S. trademark registration. So they come to me and saying, okay, now I want to protect it. And so the first thing I always do are do trademark search to make sure they can actually use it and register it. And then I have to deliver the bad news that, oh, sorry, someone else has already trademarked this.
Wow.
And so after you've already spent your time, money, resources building this business and this name and promoting this brand that you don't actually even own, and now you're maybe 3 to 4 years in, okay, well, do I rebrand or do I keep that I fall under the radar and don't end up with a cease and desist letter? So that's like a common story that I get over and over, like, oh, I didn't know, or I did know, but no one's gonna do, it's not gonna, nothing bad's gonna happen to me because I'm just a little old small business. But when in reality, based on my experience, when I was working at a big law firm representing those big companies and having to send cease and desist letters, I was almost 99% of the time I was sending it to small business owners because I wasn't sending the letters to other Fortune 200 companies. It was to the small business owners. So that's the thing, is that there's a lack of education. So that is a common and recurring thing. People jump into business, they start a business, they don't do their due diligence in terms of making sure that the name is available. So conducting the proper trademark searches and then getting the trademark on file. So that as they're building their brands, they can ensure that they have that legal ownership, exclusive rights to use it. They have that peace of mind where they don't have to spend their profits trying to pay off ugly legal disputes and things like that nature. So that is a recurring example that I've seen time and time again, where it's like, you've been building a brand that you don't own. Now you want to protect it and you can't.
Thank you for that. And just to do a cost analysis, how much does it usually cost? Of course, it's different from state to state, to actually trademark your information, your business, versus have to fight to keep your business.
Right. So, I mean, if you go, depending, different attorneys charge different rates. For me, I have an all-inclusive flat rate trademark package that includes all legal work over the entire 1 year trademark registration process. So working with me, you're looking at $2,750 for a trademark. And so that's not a lot if you really think about having unlimited access to an attorney the entire 1 year process.
Right.
Plus the life of the trademark registration is 10 years.
Okay.
So keep that in mind, and then think about it. Okay, let me just not handle the legal stuff. Like, legal stuff's not important to a lot of businesses. Like, it's the last thing they do. Okay, so what can happen? So let's, you end up spending a lot more money because you've got that money you've spent over the last 3 to 4 years building up the brand, right? Marketing, PR, getting your name, whatever. And then now you have to redo that over again. So you have to get a new website, get new packaging, get everything rebranded. And then now you want to probably try to clean stuff up. Sometimes the legal fees are going to be more. And then God forbid if you get into a litigation. Now we're talking about, 6 figures in costs for litigation. It can get up to there. I've seen it. So that's what I'm saying. It's, you look at the cost benefit analysis, it's really a small investment that can really save you a major headache in terms of time and money over the years as you're trying to focus on growing and developing your brand.
Wow, it seems almost like a no-brainer to me. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, to actually do the investment up front, especially now that you have the knowledge. Of course, if we did not know before, that's one thing, but especially if you now know, it makes sense to do what's business savvy sense is to make sure you get
Right.
that taken care of on the front end, or
People
once you
would
know.
do better if they knew better.
Right,
Right.
exactly. Yes, once you know. Um,
That
and
actually, Zakiya, that actually happened to a friend of mine who had a PR firm. And
mm,
he had grown the PR firm and it was really thriving. And at a certain point in time, I looked one day and she had to change the name of her company. And I'm like, what happened? And she kind of said the same thing, what you said, Radiance, that she didn't, someone from under her nose went and stole the trademark, the company name. So she no longer had the rights to that name anymore, even though she had built up the name. And it was a really sad thing. I mean, like you said, very expensive thing to do, rebranding, new website, new logo, the everything, but just even the energy to do that after you feel like someone has stole something from you is heartbreaking. And
right.
but she's come out of it now and she's on top, but she learned a
Good.
very hard lesson that
Mhm.
one little, $2,000 or $3,000 trip to the lawyer can really save a lot of heartache.
Sure can.
Right. And I appreciate you sharing that, because as our viewers are watching this, just imagine yourself in that situation. It could very easily happen to you. Hey, Robert from Pittsburgh. Thank you for tuning in. And for you watching, please hit like if this information is valuable. And if you have any questions for either Pam or Radiance, please just type them down into the chat and we will definitely try to get them answered. Okay. Um, how does trademark issues affect the PR practice? Can you tell us about that, Pam?
Yeah, a lot of people, like I said, like
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your slogan, things like that, or even like your website name. People think that, oh, I have a website, I own it. Well, you own the .com, but if someone decides to really take some of that stuff and start using it, you don't have legal rights to it. So I find that when someone is like creating especially creatives, they're authors and they're doing all of their taglines, they're doing the copy for their website, or they have a particular program that they want to promote, and say we promote the name of their program, but if they don't trademark it, that means someone else can start. They may put out a whole lot of press about this particular program, and then if they don't trademark it, someone else can take that same program that they've been working on, and then they'll just say, we own it and you don't. Thank you for the publicity, but we'll take it from here.
Wow.
So it's really, it's so, I mean, in this day and age, it's treacherous out here in these streets.
It is. These streets are wild. Talking about these streets being wild, let's talk about Amazon. Having those startups come in and then turn around and use their ideas. Let's talk about that, and let's also say, have you guys ever heard of, in your experience, people doing similar things, having groups come together, people who's trying to get their ideas off the ground and using it more as a think tank and turn around and using their ideas? What is your take on that?
Yeah, those are those type of letters. I guess in the group, what do you call those ratings? You have to have a non-disclosure agreement.
But not everybody goes by them.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize there's not just, you don't have protection in ideas alone. It's the actual execution of those ideas. So like, putting your ideas on intangible form, that gives you copyright. Turning that idea into a business name, that's, potential trademark. So just like speaking out loud about an idea, people automatically assume that they have protection in that, but it's not protected until you take those steps to actually protect it in some kind of format, whether it's a trademark, if that's the case, or a copyright or a trade secret, in which case you a non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement, or a patent if that's what you have. So, ideas alone aren't protected. That's why you have to take those steps to make sure that your ideas are protected.
Wow. So, Radiance, if people did sign an NDA and then that was compromised, what is the individual to do? Like the people in those startups, what are the legal rights?
I mean, if you have a signed contract and you have a potential breach of contract claim for trade secrets, or that's usually what it is. So that's why it's important, as Pam said, to have everything in writing, like everything in writing, because that'll be the basis if anything goes south. I've seen it time and time again. People starting businesses together, and it's just all happening, nothing in writing. They're doing all kinds of things. They're working with all these different people, like bringing all these different people into their business to help out. And there's no agreements there. There's no protection. So this person designed the logo. Okay, so they own the logo, and this person and there's it's not ownership in the business because there's nothing in writing. And so that is what's so key, is that in protecting your intellectual property is about actually going through the processes. So for trademarks, it's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. For copyright, as I mentioned, it's it sticks upon creation. But you can then go to the U.S. Copyright Office to get that extra insurance. And then you go to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office if you're trying to protect your patent. And then on top of that, you need to have those contracts in place to make sure that there's intellectual property provisions. So there's like a lot of things that go into making sure that your ideas are protected, because just an idea alone has no protection.
And that's why a lot of times, Radiance, when we have to respond to a client who wants a proposal, and we'll lay out the campaign and we'll lay out some ideas, and we may even give a little bit more ideas because we really want the business, and then we may not get the business, and we look up and our ideas are in the campaign. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
give me the business, but then you go take my ideas too.
Right. That's happened. That has happened, and I've heard that today when someone inboxed me. That's happened to them. They were extremely hurt. They said this was a big company that did this, and that's always a fear of mine. But when I worked for one of my larger firms, I saw the little writing that they put down in the bottom of the proposal. So now that's what I start putting down in the bottom of my proposal about this is just, the legal language that's saying that this is for this proposal and that they cannot use it for anything else. I mean, I don't know how good that is.
The trade secret.
Yes, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the digital world that we live in, you're exposed. So if you have a website, if you have social media, and if you're engaged, like on LinkedIn, on Instagram, like if you're in business and you're promoting elements of those business, then you're exposed and you're vulnerable to theft. And so if you don't take the steps to make sure that you're protected, then a lot, it's like the wild, wild west out there. People are just, there's no regard for anything. But if you have those protections in place, when anyone actually steals or anything from you, then you're ready. You're already you were proactive. You had it together, which is being reactive and scrambling to try to get things in order so that you can get back whatever was taken from you. So it's always best as a business, if you're in business, to be proactive with getting your intellectual property protections in place than reactive, because being reactive is not going to do you any good.
Yes. So, Robert asked, what are some small things that people don't think about when it comes to trademark? But I think that may have answered his question. Robert, does that answer your question? Or let us know. Because I think that is some small things. Or do you care to elaborate a little further, Attorney Harris?
What is the question again?
This question, what are some small things people don't think about when it comes to trademark?
Sure. I guess, one of the things I mentioned, of course, was to make sure that doing the trademark search, going the USPTO search, at least, and seeing if the mark that they want to use or the name or the logo is already protected or used by a third party in their field. Because there could be potential trademark infringement issues there. The other thing is about when you are deciding, what should I name my business or what should I name my new product or service, making sure that you choose something that is distinctive and allows you to stand out from your competitors. So a lot of times marketers will tell you, choose a name that describes what you're doing. And from a trademark perspective, that is like the worst thing you can do. Because if you're doing that, your competitors are doing that too. So when your prospective clients and customers are coming to or looking for business, how are you standing out if the name of your business is the marketing company or the PR company or whatever? So it's really best to choose a name that allows you to stand out. So like the best types of names, if you think about, are invented names that like don't exist in the English dictionary. So think about like Google, Exxon, Kleenex, like invented and completely made up. Those are the strongest types of brands that you could protect. And then also another are those that are considered like words that are in the English dictionary, but are being applied to something completely unrelated. So if you think of, for example, Apple for computers or Camel for cigarettes, those are awesome. If I called my firm Ice Cream Law Firm, that'd be great because it definitely stands out. People would be like, oh, what about what's the Ice Cream Law Firm? So just thinking about that, like how people really stand out and distinguish yourself in your branding, because that's also the key in terms of making sure that you can secure trademark rights, because you won't be entering into a crowded market of people who already have that same name.
What I found out, Radiance, just recently was the word escalator, because we go up an escalator.
Yeah.
I thought escalator was like that's what that thing is, but actually, Darcel said that was actually the name of the company that created those moving stairs. They didn't trademark the name; they lost it. But
there are actually a few people who did trademark the name, like an escalator, Pilates, Brazier, Yo-Yo, were all trademarks at one point, but they became generic. So a lot of times, what will happen, you protect it, but people start using it in a generic way. So if you think of Xerox, people say Xerox as to make copies, but that's an actual brand. So you'll often having to police and like send out guides about the correct way to use their brand, because that's what can happen. It can become generic and you can lose those rights if it does become generic. Like Google does the same thing. Like they don't want you to say, go and Google it, because if you to a verb or a noun, that's problematic. You want to use it as an adjective. So like go conduct a Google search. Like, so that's important, that you can actually lose your trademark rights that you've had if your trademark then becomes generic.
That is that's almost like too much branding, and then it's it's like you went beyond branding here. Now you like a name in everybody's, like Kleenex. Kleenex is not.
Yes,
it's actually tissue.
Right. People say, grab me a Kleenex.
Kleenex.
Like, no, grab me a tissue. Kleenex is a brand.
Yes. Power Pamper. Or go get me a Pamper. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good conversation. Felicia has a question. Mr. George Floyd's murder. I've been inundated with a request for D&I training, unbiased training, etc. I'm being asked to share descriptions of workshops that I've created. Are there any protections around workshop descriptions that I might provide? I don't want people to run off with my words, even if they are somewhat brief descriptions. Oh, that's a good one. Because I'm pretty sure that her workshop descriptions and the title of her workshops are unique. And so she's provided them to them, but okay, she might not hear back from them. So what can she do to protect herself?
Well, in terms of like, if it's like a signature workshop that you're doing, or like a signature course that you are doing, so the course titles can be protected as a trademark. So if it's something that you are constantly asked to go in and do, or that you do over and over within your own business, you should absolutely trademark that to prevent that from happening, to prevent them from stealing your course name. In terms of the workshop descriptions, I mean, you do have, copyright protection just by virtue of writing it. I'm not sure if it's worth the investment to go and copyright it. You can, though, with the U.S. Copyright Office, if you know that if the description is of value to you, meaning that you feel like it'll really, affect your business and take money out of your pocket, if somebody were to take that description and redo it, then you can absolutely go and get a U.S. copyright certificate, just to protect yourself and have that extra insurance, so that as you are sharing your materials with different organizations, you can have that peace of mind. And so if you do find out that they do it, like, you already have that, it's automatic presumption of ownership. You've got the clear evidence that you have it. So it just depends on how important those descriptions are to you. But absolutely, if you have the name of a signature course or workshop or whatever that you're doing, that would be worthwhile protecting, because that is the way that you make money. That is your signature. That's what people are hiring you for. So it's definitely something that you would want to protect.
There was a workshop that Dr. Portia Lockett does, and it's not her workshop. Is called True Colors, and True Colors is just the name of, they license it. I guess it's different, I guess. So someone who licensed the name of that, they're a True Colors now expert to actually to do that. So that's a little bit different, but eventually though, True Colors had to trademark it before they could even license it, right?
Yeah, you have to have, you can't license something that you don't own. So
right.
You have to make sure you have those protections in place before you can even license.
And
so that's why I help my clients with it as well, getting those license agreements together to make sure when they are doing that. And that's the beauty of licensing. You work hard once, you create the content, you create the brand, you protect it, and then people are paying you out the wazoo to use your genius.
Okay.
Like, protect it. That's money that you're losing. That's what you're leaving on the table.
I love it. That's wonderful. This is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. These are gems that are being dropped. Please hit like and share. This is such valuable information. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Where do I go? What advice would you give anyone before investing their money into we touched on this before, but what advice would you give? This goes to both of you. Anyone who, before investing their money into a coaching program?
Read the fine print. Because what you think you're signing up for may not be what they're going to deliver. And that could be a real sticky thing. So you sign up for someone's coaching program and you think you're going to get these deliverables at the end because of the sales page. But when you give them the money, you read the contract to make sure that it is what you think it is. Okay. Because a sales page is different because you've not really made that transaction yet and you're believing the hype.
Yes.
But when you decide that you really want to do business with them, look at the deliverables according to the contract. It's so important. I find so many people, even when they hire publicists, they're so hurt by what they thought they were going to get. And I said, well, was it spelled out? No, it wasn't written out. It's just what they thought was different from what the other person thought.
Right.
You just really have to read it. I've had people that say, well, I didn't read my contract. Okay.
You absolutely must.
Okay, well, you just want to have your butt way out there like that, huh?
You could be signing your life away, literally.
Yeah.
And just to follow up on that point, Pam, if there is no contract, that means it could be a free for all.
Oh my God.
You're not guaranteed nothing. So if you sign up for something and there's it's like, it could be a free for all. So you're not guaranteed to get anything. And in addition to that, I would say talk to people. If you know people who have worked with that coach before, get some feedback. Try to, ask around for some references to make sure that you're going to be signing up and getting what you pay for, because there are a lot of, shady shysters out here on all kinds of businesses, and so you have to make sure that they're legit. And so you can ask around and find out more information, and then also read the contract when you're ready to move forward.
And that's even true too. So just think about when you see a sales page and you see a lot of their testimonials or things like that. They're there. They're real people, maybe real faces or first and last name. You can actually go to those people and ask them before you actually engage with them in business, and just go and Google them. If they say, oh, well, this person did such a great job, he's a great business coach, and you go and Google them and you look them up and they out of business. How great of a coach is that? You out of business. Like, website is gone, cannot be found.
Right.
Like, oh, that's not a good sign. I was right. They need to take that testimonial down.
Oh, that is good. And that's not even deep investigation journalism. That's just surface. But yes, right. Okay. Right. I love it. I love it. Okay. Oh, we're getting close to the top of the hour. Okay. Pam, please tell us about your wonderful magazine.
Speakers Magazine. This is my new baby. 3 years old, toddler stage. So I've had some really fabulous covers. This month is this one. August is coming up. I can't reveal it yet. But it started 3 years ago from the standpoint of media, that I wanted Black authors and speakers to have their own platform. And I got really tired of major media not giving them the shine that they deserve. So I said, well, let's create Speakers Magazine. It's a magazine that feeds and features Black speakers. When I say feeds, in terms of information about how to improve themselves in the speaking industry, how to brand, how to promote, how to do a podcast, book, whatever, as a speaker. And we're partnered with the Black Speakers Network. So about a year into Speakers Magazine, I saw what Brian Oles was doing with the Black Speakers Network, and we decided to team up. And so we're the official magazine for BSN, and that's really exciting. And then basically now the point of doing the magazine, whoever is on the cover, like this one, they have events. So we're promoting their events. But since COVID-19, a lot of the events now are virtual. So I'm seeing a big shift in that. And so we're actually shifting along with that as well, because we used to actually go to the events and do the social media for all of their conferences.
Okay.
We don't do that now. So we're just doing more of the virtual things and more digital marketing for them as well. We're still doing PR for them as well, but that is Speakers Magazine. And so people can go to speakersmagazine.net. They can read the issues for free. All of them, they're all online. Or if they want to get a physical copy, they can actually get a physical copy as well in the mail. And it's you can go to speakersmagazine.net and do that as well. But I always say that it's so many great African-American speakers that we just don't know about unless someone promotes them. And that's really one of the main things that I just really is my mission, is to promote great speakers.
Thank you for that. And thank you for all the work you have done in your career and being for an inclusive leader. You're a change agent. We appreciate you, Pam.
Thank you. I'm glad we had Cheryl's event.
Yes, I'm so glad as well. I am. And Radiance, can you please tell us about your business where you help emerging businesses protect, monetize, and grow profitable brands with trademarks?
Sure. So I help businesses. So if they're interested in securing trademark protection, I help them with that. So I handle the U.S. trademark registration process from start to finish for them. As I mentioned before, it's about a year long on average. And so I handle that. I also handle, enforcement. So if they need to send a cease and desist letter or something like that, I do that on behalf of my clients. And then also I specialize in licensing. So if my clients are looking to monetize their intellectual property, so, now that they've protected it, how can we leverage this? And so I help them with doing licensing. And so the ways that I do that, I have essentially an IP strategy session that a lot of clients are interested in, where it's a 45-minute session that I offer, where we sit down and do a deep dive and look at their business, look at their intellectual property, and we come up with a legal action plan. So they walk away from that meeting knowing what they need to do legally to protect themselves and how much it'll cost them. Because a lot of times people are afraid to go work with an attorney or speak with an attorney because they're like, how much is this going to cost me? But at least with the legal action plan, the IP strategy session that we do, you're able to know what you do, what you need done, how much it'll cost if you decide to work with me. And even if you don't decide to work with me, you still know what you need to do, and then you can get your affairs in order. And then I also have a signature flat rate, all-inclusive trademark registration package that I do, that I work with clients where they just come to me, say, Radiance, I want you to do your thing. And so I handle it from start to finish. No nickeling and diming. What you pay me as that flat rate is what it is, whether the process takes 10 months or takes 2 years, it's the same flat rate.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's really outstanding. Um, well, again, I like to thank both of you guys for joining this panel discussion today, especially as we're going through this uncertain time with the economic crisis, COVID-19, and the racial unrest. A lot of people are just, I guess, in a time where they're just looking for the come up and they just don't know what to do. So, we want you to protect yourself and protect your brand and your intellectual capital. And please reach out to Pam and Radiance. We're going to make sure that you have their contact information in the comments when I get off of this broadcast. And please share this information with your friends and your loved ones because you want them to be protected too. Don't be selfish with the information. I have a Facebook group that's centered around diversity, equality, and inclusion, and it's free. We share information, we discuss inclusion because I really believe that change happens when you start talking about uncomfortable topics. So I'll put that information down in the comments as well, and please join us there. And I just want to sign off by saying, as always, peace, love, and many blessings to you. Thank you all, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Zakiya.
You're welcome.